Welcome to Making Herstory. This isn't polished success stories. This is the fire, the chaos, the gut punch truth of women who refuse to play small. The real, feral stories. The messy, bold, audacious stories that flip the table and set shit on fire. This is where we roar. It's Ashley Crabb. Buckle up, babe. We're making herstory.
Hello, 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 and welcome back. It's Ashley Crabb. I am so glad you're here. In case we haven't met yet, I'm a wife, a twin mom, speaker, author. I help feral, audacious mothers root themselves in their story. Because when we realize our stories are the greatest asset, our greatest form of wealth that we carry, that no one else can tell our truth, that is when everything shifts. That is when we stop shrinking. That is when we start living out loud. My work is about telling our truths. It's about embodiment. It is about owning your magnetic power, even if you are still growing, still figuring it out, and still becoming. Today, I'm sharing something I've never shared before. And it was because I carried shame. It was because I carried guilt. It was because I was scared. I wasn't ready. And I'm ready now. So, if you know me, growing up, I wanted a seventh heaven life. I wanted to have all the babies. I wanted to marry a pastor, a reverend. And I didn't live a very religious life. Like that wasn't my family. And that's probably part of the reason why I wanted it so hard. However, when we grow, we change, things happen. And I, for a very long time, not only didn't want to be a mom, I truly thought I didn't deserve to be a mom. And that is a whole nother topic for another day. But when my husband and I got married in 2018, we got married and we both did not want kids. We we liked our life the way that it was. We had a plan and we were honestly good with it. We were both good with it. And then of course COVID hits and the world is on fire and everything is changing. Everyone is shifting. Insanity, right? And so much changed in that time for me, my husband, everybody. But there was so much work that I was doing. I had started breaking my limiting beliefs. I had started breaking generational patterns. I had started building a deeper spiritual relationship with myself, with God, with my angels. And I was starting to stop the habits that were keeping me small. You know, being part of circles that kept me small, the partying, the drinking, the drugs, the numbing. And so by starting to make that shift, by allowing myself to come home to me, to the woman that I was always meant to be, to learn myself better, to forgive myself, to truly start to embody and harmonize the life that I knew was meant for me, for my husband, for my family. And that in that process, in those moments of stillness, I started to see how much love was truly inside of me, how much love I had to give. And I realized that one of the things that I was designed to do in this world, in this life, was be a mom. And that was such an amazing realization to come to. Like it and it wasn't like I stumbled into this realization. It was kind of like one morning I just woke up and I decided from a place of deeply knowing myself, starting to deepen that relationship with myself, I started to realize and I started to recognize a woman who had been thinking she wasn't worthy of motherhood, who had been thinking she wasn't enough to be a mother. And that woman who started to do that work on herself finally trusted. I finally trusted myself in what I wanted. I finally realized that I've been worthy and enough of motherhood this whole time. This whole time. And so I told Scott, let's be parents. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, no, I'm not. What?" I mean, he really did. He was like, "I'm not ready for this conversation." And he was like, "Also, can we wait? Can like we wait?" And I was like, "You know what? All right, I sprung this on you, and so sure, we'll pause the conversation for now and we'll come back to it, right?" And the universe, God, the angels that I have in my life, that we have in our lives, they were like, "Oh, nope, you said it. You decided, you claimed what you wanted, and we are going to give that to you now." So, lo and behold, shortly after that, take a pregnancy test and I'm pregnant, baby. And it was so fun that day. Like, I was on the phone with my baby's sister and like I made her do the test with me and we had to do it again to make sure. And so it was so funny doing that with her and knowing that my husband was at work and I was freaking out. I was freaking out. I was freaking out. And so I was like, I'm going to call him. I'm going to tell him he has to come home. I'm going to call him and tell him at work. Alex is like, no. I think that day I like went thrifting and I went to I went shopping. Like I went shopping that day, the whole day. Like I just putzed around town and I was like laughing to myself the whole day because I just couldn't believe it. So I ended up in a local boutique. I found this adorable vintage children's ABC wall hanging and I roll the pregnancy test up inside of it and I just wait. I wait. And because I am so smooth on occasion of delivering information to my husband. He barely has time to walk in the door. The second he walks through the door from work, his shoes aren't even off, nothing. I hand him this rolled up poster. He's like, and he opens it and it takes him a minute to understand what's going on. But he just looks at me and he's like, our lives are over. And I immediately start crying and I leave. I leave my house because I had to go take brand photos for the Pilates studio that I'm working at. So, anyways, he did get me flowers the next day and a beautiful card, and we rolled through these new emotions of this life changing event, this massive pivot in our plan. So, I don't know how pregnant I am. I don't know what's going on here. So we get this our first ultrasound schedule. Um, and I hadn't told anybody really. I told my sister and one of my older sisters. In fact, right before the appointment, we were on the phone and she goes, "Ha ha ha, Ash, like you're gonna be the one to have twins in the family." Goes right over my head. Don't even think about it again. But we're in there. We're in this appointment. It's taking a long time, and the tech looks at us at one point and she goes, "I'll be back. I have to check on some things." We start freaking out, holding on to hands for dear life, like we don't know what's going on. And she comes back, she flips the screen around and she goes, "This is baby A." Goes right over our heads. And this is baby B. And uh Scott drops his head into his hands and he's silent. I look at her and I go, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I immediately start sobbing. And there's this tech student in the room who's trying not to laugh. The actual tech is like just looking at me and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm shocked. I don't know. I don't know." And so she gives us a few minutes. She brings the pictures back and like everything is good. Everything is good, right? I mean, we were shocked. We were scared. We were blindsided by two human beings at one time. So the next week, we decided to move. We were living in Washington State. My whole family's in Pennsylvania, and I'm like, let's go. Let's pack up and go home. Because we're already dealing with so much change. Let's throw a cross country move in there. But we did. We sold everything we could. We packed up what we didn't sell, and we moved. I wouldn't say we moved without a solid plan, but we kind of moved without a solid plan. And we were determined to figure it out no matter what it took. And I mean, everyone knew we were moving back home. Everyone knew we had made this decision. We had lined up that we were going to stay with my mom for a little bit while we found a house. It was all going to work out, and we were excited to be back on the East Coast, close to my family. But what no one knew was that we moved cross country. I was my own boss. I had my business was rocking before I found out that I was pregnant and we decided we were going to move. But I was an entrepreneur, so I didn't have necessarily a consistent, steady stream of income at the time, um, because of the way the business was set up. And my husband has a great job at the United States Postal Service, but his transfer hadn't gone through to Pennsylvania. So we moved 3,000 miles away with two tiny human beings in my belly, our two cats, ourselves, and we theoretically didn't know what the income plan was at the time, right? We had this confidence that his transfer would end up going through. um, I knew that if it didn't, we would figure it out. And we also knew that like I was going to continue my business. I wasn't closing my business. I wasn't going to stop being an entrepreneur. So like there was a little bit of leeway there, I guess you could say. But for 3.5 months, while we waited for this transfer to go through, we had no income coming in. I wasn't working, he wasn't working right then and there, and in in all honesty, we were terrified that he was never going to get that transfer, that the job wasn't going to come through. And I mean, during this 3.5 months, this man was going to job interviews, like we were driving around trying to find something, and nothing was landing. So imagine making this huge decision together that we were okay with, that we understood some of the consequences too. But imagine like that stress level of living with my mom, being pregnant with twin boys, and not knowing exactly what the future was going to hold. And it did end up working out. It ended up working out. His transfer went through. In fact, his transfer went through like 2 days before I went in for my C-section. So it was okay. It was okay, right? But in that 3.5 months moving cross country with no source of income coming in, I mean, we blew through our savings. So, the boys make it into the world. The C-section goes good. The hospital stay is fine. Everyone is healthy and happy, although we are exhausted and terrified, right? Um, but I couldn't breastfeed. I couldn't breastfeed. My milk never came in. Formula was through the roof expensive. And at that time, there was a shortage on formula. Diapers for two babies who are newborns, insane. Rent was through the roof. Utilities were through the roof. Brand new parents. And we made this decision to move cross country. And after maybe 3 months, I did try to go back to work. I tried to do virtual jobs. I did some virtual assistant work. I I was willing to figure out how to make that income, that wealth more, right? But I was exhausted. I was so exhausted as a new mom, trying to figure out how to be a new mom to twins, trying to deal with postpartum depression, all of the things, right? And and I wouldn't say that my immediate family, I wouldn't say that Scott, I wouldn't say that anybody put the expectation on me to go back to work. But there is that expectation there. I mean, I just told you I started to try to go back to work after 3 months. And why was that in my brain? Because that's the maternity leave mothers get in the workforce, right? So like we're conditioned to believe that working moms as new moms, we got to get back to it. And it wasn't working for me. It wasn't working for me. And there should not have been an expectation for it to work for me, right? But there was. And so I had that idea in my head, right? But I also had this belief that like I had to be a certain kind of mother. So when we're trying to figure out all of this money stuff and finance stuff and parenthood stuff and I'm trying to figure out like who the fuck I am now, I had I had a shift. I had a huge shift where I was like, "You know what? I don't want to work ever. I don't want to make my own money. I don't want my business. I don't want any of this. I want to be a mom. That is what I want to be. That is the hat I want to wear. That is the title I want. I'm going into my homesteading era and take it one level more, like I wanted to be a trad wife. And before anyone gets their panties in a knot, like I just wanted to be a traditional wife. I just wanted to do everything for my husband, make him hot meals, clean our home. I wanted to depend on him and have him be our sole provider. That is admittedly and honestly what I wanted. So I tried to make it happen. I started making everything from scratch. I started stretching every single dollar. But I I could almost not afford to buy the things that it took to be in my homesteading era. It was like an endless loop, right? You need flour to bake bread and shit's expensive, you know? And in the same breath, I went so far as to be like, I went a year without buying new underwear with like holes in the elastic, right? Clothes that fit me, socks that didn't have holes in them. Like we as a family were sacrificing so much, so much. And it didn't feel like a quality life. Yes, we were living. Yes, we were happy. Yes, we were making it work, but we were also desperate. And that's the word I want to use, desperate. Like your girl was going to sell pictures on the internet of her feet, right? And I didn't. I did not do that because my husband was like, no, we're not going to that extent. I mean, this man is working overtime. This man is working non-scheduled days. Like this man can't work anymore. He needs to sleep at least a couple of hours, right? And then once a month, I would volunteer at the food bank's warehouse. I would go and help pack boxes and clean and do all of that sort of stuff. So I could get a voucher to go grocery shopping at their grocery store. I am, 5 months postpartum and it was every time I had to leave the house to go spend 4 hours volunteering, I would have anxiety attacks because I had to leave the boys. Like I would freak out. But also in that same breath, I got joy from volunteering and helping other families and doing that and like getting out of the house to be part of my community. Wild, wild, wild emotions. But, I would do that. I would do that so that we could feed our family. And it was amazing to me to experience this because I had never experienced this in my life. As a kid, I grew up going on missions trips to the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky. And so to be on the other side of that, and to need help and assistance, it was a very uncomfortable feeling, and it was a very uncomfortable time. And I was still determined to put all of my eggs into the basket of being a stay-at-home mom. And it blew my mind when I would go to the grocery. It would blow my mind when I would go to the grocery store, and it was a massive store, and you paid for the food by the pound. You paid 25 cents a pound for the food that you got. And what was also wild about it was being in that warehouse, in that grocery store, getting those boxes of food, because I also saw the level of help that we were providing the people in our community. Please do not hear when I am not saying those food pantries, those churches giving out those boxes, that grocery store are doing good things in our community. You know, I would go to the grocery store and shop, and you would pay 25 cents a pound for your food. I could spend $100 or less and feed my family for a month. The boxes were free, the food pantry was free, but I would also have to pick through that food. I would have to pick through that food because it was moldy, because it was super expired. And I would have to find what was okay to eat, to feed my family. And this isn't about necessarily food waste or imperfect food or food with questionable nutrition value because that's what's available, but like it is, because that is not the quality of life I want anyone to live. That is not the quality of life that I want to live. And it was the life that I was living. Scott knew, my immediate family knew, but nobody else knew. And I was carrying that invisible weight as a new mom, the way we carry everything as an invisible weight, because I was ashamed. I was ashamed that my husband and I couldn't seem to figure it out. But it goes even deeper than that. And this is what took me years. This is what took me 4 years to figure out and to name. The reason why I didn't tell anyone, it wasn't just my pride. It wasn't that. It was that I didn't think we deserved the help. I didn't think that I deserved the help. I didn't think that we were hurting enough. I didn't think that we were suffering enough. I didn't think that we were worthy enough of getting support. I felt like we needed to earn that desperation before I was allowed to ask for help. And I just think that's insane. I think that's insane, but that is also the narrative of the broken system that we aren't talking about. This is about motherhood. This is about a system that doesn't work for moms. It is about a system that teaches us to believe that we need to sacrifice, and we don't deserve more. And that we have to hit rock bottom before we ask for what we need. And that when we do need something, we have failed. I was 3 months postpartum with twins. Yes, we didn't have an income. Yes, we made the decisions we made, but I was picking through moldy food. I was so stressed about getting enough formula to feed my kids. I was dealing and battling with extreme postpartum depression, and I still didn't think I deserved help. That is a personal problem, and it's because of the narrative that we have been told and that we have been telling over and over again. Keep mothers invisible. Keep mothers silent. Keep mothers carrying the weight of everything alone and call it fucking strength. And when I come back to that and I think about what that cost, and I think about the stress on me and the stress that rippled off of me because of our financial turmoil at the time, because of the life, the motherhood that I thought I wanted to have. I both thought this is what we deserved, and every time I thought we deserved better, I got too afraid to name what it was that we wanted and needed. That's the cost of silence, right? We we continue to sacrifice and beat ourselves down in the name of silence, in the name of making everybody else feel comfortable, right? And the next layer of that onion, the next layer of that onion is that it wasn't just that I was moving through a hard season. It was that I was also grieving this version of motherhood that I thought I wanted. I thought I wanted to be the trad wife. I thought I wanted to be the homesteading mom. I thought I wanted to make everything from scratch and like have all these chickens and shit, right? And because that is what so much of society tells us a good mom looks like, she doesn't work out of the home. She makes bread. She's with the children all the time. And she loves every freaking second of it. She never needs a break. I told myself enough times that I had to love that I started believing that I did love it. And do you know what kind of fight that makes inside yourself when you don't love something and you're trying to live this lie of a life? I was miserable, miserable. And I thought something was wrong with me. Like I thought my brain was going to explode because I was like, how can I not want to be this kind of mom? How can I want to be this thought leader? Why? Why do I want to be all of these things? And I was grieving myself. I was grieving the life that I thought I wanted, the life that I thought I was supposed to want, the mother that I was supposed to become. And it was real and it was heavy. And it was one more invisible thing that I had to carry alone because I couldn't talk about that out loud. I couldn't talk about how I thought it was bullshit that I was making myself believe that I had to be the kind of mom that everybody else was, or that I started to believe the narrative that any mom who wasn't like that was wrong, was bad, was failing. And so moving through all of that, here's what I know. Like, it's okay that I don't want to homestead. It's okay that I never want to stop working. It's okay that my version of motherhood isn't what I thought it was going to be. And it's okay that it's what I want it to be. It is mine, right? And it's okay for you too. If you want to be a homesteading mom, I am so over labels, but we're gonna go with it. If that's the motherhood you want, girl, go for it. Go for it. Sometimes I still wish that I was good with that. I'm not even gonna lie to you, but I'm not. So if you also want to be a working mom, girl, go for it. Whether it's your own business, whether it's a W-2, I just want you to do what you love, to do what brings life to you. There's no wrong version of you. The only wrong version of you is performing a version of yourself that isn't even you to begin with, right? And so in me recognizing it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have hardship, fear and doubt and limiting beliefs and questions. It's okay to not feel ready. But your power comes in doing it anyways. And your power comes in owning all of that shit, not hiding it, not just performing through it, not carrying it invisibly because you don't think you deserve to be seen in it. Own it. and say, you know what, this is hard. I'm scared. I don't feel ready, but I'm here. I'm showing up. I am going to continue to build. I'm going to continue to create and grow. That is my power. And when you decide that, when you decide you are done carrying this weight, when you're done carrying this narrative, you are worthy of being seen. You are worthy of being heard, of being understood. You are worthy of living your life exactly the way you want to live it. And say it out loud. Say it out loud. I don't I don't want to live a homesteading life. I don't want to live a hustle life. I don't want to live a life that was never mine. I want to live my life. And so when I think about that, when I think about mothers just being fucking done with fear, with shame and guilt, and telling the world what we need, telling the world what we want, telling the world what we're going to do. We don't have to go through it alone anymore. This delusional, audacious vision I have is of women who refuse to accept anything less than what they know they deserve, and being confident to say that. You know, I don't ever want to stand in a food pantry line again, ever. I want to feed my family good food. I want to have a quality of life that is delicious and rich in so many ways. And I don't ever want another mother to have to stand in a food pantry line with their 4-month-old twins and feel like she doesn't deserve to be there, but I don't want her to have to be there in the first place. No mother should have to question if she can feed her babies. No mother should have to look through moldy, expired food to make sure it's okay. I don't want other mothers to have to go through what I went through. I don't want anyone else to carry the weight of an entire season all by themselves. Just because she was afraid to say, I need help, I deserve help, I want something different, and I'm gonna name it out loud. And being okay with sharing this story today, being okay with talking about this moment in my life, it cracked it all open. This is what I was meant to do with my life. That season that I had to go through, that desperation that I had to feel, the expired food, the volunteering vouchers, the grief that I went through. I had to recognize the wealth that I had inside of me this whole time. My boys, my husband, my family, a body that shows up every single day, even when it's fucking exhausted. It created life. And I had a mind that was so brilliant, so magnetic, that it had to keep going. It couldn't shut off. It couldn't stop, even if I was terrified. I had fire inside of me. We all have fire inside of us. And I chose to light the match, even if I didn't know what was going to happen. That was the universe saying, wealth in mothers is your mission. Wealth in mothers is your destiny. The kind that no one is talking about. The real foundational journey of wealth. That's what you're here to do. That's what you're here to talk about. And I want you to start seeing yours right now. In whatever season you are in, no matter what type of life you want, no matter what type of vision you have for your family, whatever season you're in, however hard it is, however scared you are, whatever you're working to, look around you right now. What wealth do you already have? How can you build off of that? The people, your surroundings, your body, your mind, the fire that you refuse to extinguish. See all of that. Name it out loud. Start there. Be radically fucking grateful for everything you have now and everything you're going through, and create from that. And name what you want. Say it out loud. with feral, audacious, rooted, unapologetic noise. Don't be sorry for a single word of it. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to build more. You're allowed to have more. And you're allowed to ask for help. Receive it. We were always allowed to do that. We are feral, audacious, rooted mothers. I am. You are. That is who we are. And we aren't going to stop. I refuse to stop. And so I didn't pivot into Wealth and Mothers just because it was a good idea. I pivoted into this because I lived the alternative and I know what the alternative costs. It costs so much, right? But it costs your story. It costs your voice. It costs your visibility, your health, your quality of life, your children. It costs you. It costs you the version of yourself who you were always meant to be. And my delusional feral self refuses to let go of this. We, as mothers, we are wealth. Collectively, we are wealth. When we create so much visibility and community and power, that is wealth. When we use our voice, that is wealth. When we say, I refuse to feel unworthy, when we refuse to let other mothers feel unworthy, that is wealth. When we can support and educate and hold and communicate with each other. So no mother ever feels like she has to perform a life so that no mother has to grieve in silence. That is what I refuse to let go of. Our silence, our exhaustion from carrying this weight, it ends here. Because this is not just a nice idea. This is not just fluffy talk about harmony and hustle and productivity. This is what changes my life as a mother, your life as a mother, the lives of mothers everywhere. Motherhood does not disqualify us from wealth. It qualifies us for leadership. It qualifies us for taking charge in the conversation and the way we build it. I am here on the other side of a shitty season. And I am reaching back saying, come with me. Come with me. You don't have to carry this alone. You never did. And I'm not going to let you anymore. If this episode cracked something open, I am in your corner. I want to hear about it. And if you want to get into my corner, download my Tell Your Story Fire Starter. It's free. The link is in my notes. Get that story out of your head and onto the page and frickin' lead with it instead of hiding from it. And if you want to go even deeper, if you want more clarity, if you want someone who's gonna ride with you as you make this journey in your life, book a 30-minute vibe check with me. I would love to talk. And if you are a mother building wealth on your own terms and you are ready to bring your story into this room, please reach out to me to be a guest. Please reach out to me if there are other topics you want to discuss. Your story belongs here. Our stories belong here. Make sure to share this episode with a mother who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss a week. And before you go, repeat after me. I am a wealthy woman. I am a present mother. I am a leader, and I don't have to prove myself. All right, babes, I'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Making Herstory. Remember, your story isn't optional. It's your fire, your power, and the heartbeat of every space you build. So take up space, tell it raw, and keep building the kind of legacy that can't be ignored. It's Ashley Crabb, and I'll be back with more bold, brave, feral stories soon. And if you want to stay feral with me, hit subscribe, share this with your sisters, and let's make herstory louder together.